You got fins to the left, fins to the right, and you're the only bait in town. That's right. It's the prophetic Jimmy Buffett singing about how every team wants a piece of Adrian Newey. I'm Drew Scanlon. Joining me, Danny O'Dwyer. How are you, Danny?
And Valtteri Bottas, depending on how you interpret the lyrics. That's the beauty of music, really. You can find your own truth in the words and the grooves. I'm doing great. How's Rob doing?
Just contemplating how Why Don't We Get Drunk and Screw is actually about silly season.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big F1 fan. Jimmy.
Absolutely.
Rest in peace.
Rest in power. Yeah.
Rest in paradise. If you are new to this podcast, a very warm welcome. And if you are new to Formula One itself, we recommend listening to our preseason primer episode, which assumes no prior F1 knowledge and explains how the sport works and who everybody is. So if you'd like to go back and listen to that, it's episode 257. Also, this show would not be possible without our audience over at patreon.com/shiftf1, where every month we release an ad-free version of the podcast, along with bonus podcasts and videos that are exclusively for our patrons. That cover racing documentaries and films, F1 video games, experiments with other racing series, and a lot of weird things. So if you would like to support the show and get access to all that fun stuff, head over to patreon.com/shiftf1 or click the link in the show notes. What do we have going on this month of May, Danny?
Yeah, I know. It is May. We're in beautiful May. It's going to be May. All the great May Day. You know, there's just so many things to say. But all we are here to talk about in May on the Patreon side is 1980s The Stunt Man.
So timely.
I cannot wait to watch this. 2 hours and 11 minutes, 80s, barely 80s. Looks more 70s from the screen grabs I've seen. Movie about presumably some sort of stunt man, not a stuntman. There's a space between them. Very excited to see. I'm in a real old movie vibe at the moment. I've actually been going through like the movies I've never watched that I always thought I would watch. I watched Taxi Driver for the first time. 2 weeks ago.
Ages.
It's a great movie. There's loads. I watched LA Confidential last week.
Oh.
I'm just like I'm in the groove for some old movies. And what better classic to round out that triumvirate than The Stunt Man, a movie on the tip of everyone's tongue.
Yeah, I have seen this movie. I don't actually remember how many cars are in it. But you know what? There is that movie coming out with Ryan Gosling.
You're right.
Fall Guys.
You're
Fall
right.
Guy. And there's cars in that one. So, and that's also about a stuntman. So by the transitive property, we're watching this film.
We were not intentionally counter-programming that rom-com with Ryan Gosling in it. But now
I'm trying to make it more relevant, Danny.
Now, are we? Is it? I don't know. Another movie nobody's talking about, just newer. And massive thanks to all of our incredible title sponsors, of course. Get Rich or Die Ryan, Agave ATX, Cyphus Training, Turf SCS, at Team Blackjack, Michael Maves, Gordy's Army, at Talking Autos, Olivia Evans, telemetrydeck.com, FTC, Drew Stewart, Bailey Foot, Abdullah Al-Thani, Jason Chadwick, Abraham Getchell, The Space Above Us podcast. #Bunny Redacted, Snigs, Alex Goucher, Max Vautar, Circuit Demon, Troy Stammer, William Rumpf, Irvine Clinical Research, Lachlan the Madden Man, Samurai Love Story. Shogun season episode 10 was pretty good. It was pretty good. I think episode 9 was better. And Jason Kelly.
Man, I still only seen the first episode.
You're still bamboozled by the beautiful anamorphic lenses they were using.
Yeah.
Well,
what's going on with those?
It's weird.
Like, I think I gotta resubscribe to Max because I gotta catch up on Tokyo Vice. So that's my next
so
step.
Good.
Is like learn what happened with season 2. Because last I saw, my favorite guy was like bleeding out. I was like, did they just kill one of the leads? So I'm in suspense.
We should randomly one week just do complete non sequitur podcast. Just something that is something
that's what we're doing with the Stuntman.
Okay, that's fair. But that's, it's not for Gen Pop. You got to be part of the Patreon crew to get into that. What if we just like randomly? What if there was a race that was so boring that instead of even acknowledging it, we all just came on here and started talking about something like completely different? not sports related.
That is a
not,
dangerous door to go through for an F1 podcast, because it was like, well, this was more boring than that other race. And suddenly
we're pivoting to MotoGP before anyone knows it.
Well, let's get into the Formula One, because we actually have a lot to talk about here.
We do.
In the news realm, especially. Let's just kick things off here, Rob, with Adrian Newey.
So, yeah, there were stories that, like, a week ago, that there were a lot of rumors that he was seriously considering leaving, and then this week, the reports are that these are the sort of reports that are not confirmed, but they're being reported with so much confidence. It certainly seems like someone, like Newey or someone very close to Newey, has basically told people that this is a done deal, and that he has already basically handed in his resignation, and it may be formalized before the race in Miami. So,
and just to reset here for those maybe new to the show or new to F1, Adrian Newey is the designer of the Red Bull car. He has been in the sport for a long time, since 1990s, and is widely considered to be the best car designer Formula One has ever seen.
Yes, he has won championships at 3 different constructors, and is always the guy people are chasing. He's always coming up with the sort of the new model of the car. So yeah, the idea, like him leaving, we always talk about like people, this person's leaving, that person's leaving. Him leaving is as dramatic as Max Verstappen leaving. Like him, he is, you know, he's an important part of any team, and he has the ability, at least on his resume, to change the forecast of any other team on the grid.
So why is he leaving? The story coming out of this, some of the reporting is that basically the vibes suck at Red Bull is a huge part of it. Like one of the reasons given in the reporting is that in the wake of both the allegations against Christian Horner around sexual harassment, and then the ongoing power struggle within the team with Horner and Marco,
Joss.
and then the two sides of the Red Bull business, the Thai side and the Austrian side. It's just become a stressful and kind of miserable place to work. On top of that, and this was interesting in the Autosport story, there was a detail that last year, I remember this, last year, Horner gave an interview where he explained that the team was not the Adrian Newey show anymore, that they weren't super dependent on him anymore. And he gave a quote, the technical team under him, led by Pierre Wash, is doing a wonderful job, so they're not dependent on Adrian. Nobody noticed. I didn't notice at the time, but apparently Adrian Newey's wife Amanda is on Twitter. And when it came out, she posted this interview and just said, "What a load of hogwash," which in retrospect maybe was important. You know what I mean?
Incredibly British reaction, can I just say as well?
What rot. So now the thing is, I will say in like Horner's defense on that front, Newey, they made a big deal about like Newey basically like taking a year off and stepping away from day-to-day operations and such. And so I do understand how you get there, but it does sort of seem like there was a deeper sense of feeling like Horner was minimizing Newey's contributions and sort of breaking that relationship, and it seems like there's been other tensions as well. So Newey just wants out. It doesn't seem like this is a thing where he necessarily needs to be lured out of Red Bull anymore. He just doesn't want to work there anymore. So where is he going to land? The Autosport article has some interesting speculation. Interesting in particular because there's a lot of like mind reading in the article that doesn't get sort of explained where it is coming from. But again, if the source is basically like unnamed source Adrian Newey, this might be it. Or just things that a reporter has heard him say offhand. Delicious little morsels in this interview.
Feed me. My mouth is agape.
Doesn't view Mercedes as a serious option because, one, their situation is so bad. Looming over all this, he's 69 years old, and so like
nice.
he wants to be able to make a difference fast. He doesn't feel like he has a decade to invest in standing up an entire workflow. So Mercedes, one, he isn't confident he can sort of fix whatever the design issues they have or the pipeline issues they have. Two, doesn't think much of Toto Wolff.
Okay. All right.
Like Zach Brown a lot, they get along famously.
Oh.
Thinks McLaren sucks. Basically, he's like, I don't know. I do not know that I want any part of trying to sort out McLaren. The Stroll thing is really interesting.
Okay.
It almost sounds like he finds Lawrence Stroll gauche. Is they talk about like Stroll made a very generous offer to Newey, but Newey does not apparently feel very warmly towards Stroll, and in particular,
so specific.
doesn't want to be the guy who pumps the value of Aston Martin so that Mr. Corporate Turnaround Artist can then flip the asset. And that is Newey's. That apparently is one of Newey's reservations. Is that
why doesn't he get stock in the company and then they're aligned?
Maybe that wasn't being offered. So basically, the thrust of the Autosport article is that effectively.
Back to Williams, baby. Here we go.
So, I'm sorry, I don't want to break you. I don't mean to break your heart, but
how's his Italian?
that's the thing. It looked like there are serious objections to everything except Maranello, except Italy's a pain in the ass. I don't.
69, man.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to go. I don't know if I want to move to Italy.
Does Amanda and Newey want to pack up all her hogwash and move down there as well? That's a big change.
Well, here's the thing. Maybe it's gotten way harder with Brexit, but here's the thing. Like from the American perspective, the thought of people like, oh, moving from England to Italy. I'm like, what? That's
The only problem is you put on
trade.
about 40 pounds in the first 6 months. That's the only issue.
Yeah, that's very
the biggest
true.
smile on your face.
But anyway, so that part was fascinating. That like Newey has this like this little like diary of like all these little it's like the little journal in Mean Girls about like what he thinks of all the different teams and the team principles.
Where are these leaks coming from? Because they're not even like, it's not something you could deduce. It's like, it's super specific internal vibe checks against the other team.
I think there's one of two things. One, this is basically stuff Newey's said, but like don't quote me on this.
Right,
but
yeah.
Lawrence Stroll sucks. Or one of the things about being a long-term beat reporter is that you do just have so many off-the-record and informal conversations that like you know what one of your primary subjects thinks about various issues. Now you can't just say like, oh, here's what they have said about this in the past. But I feel like this is sort of how you might report it, is just like on background, like, look, we know this is how he thinks about these teams.
And especially if he's somebody who was probably not in the market for a long time, and so sort of openly talking about the other teams, not in the context of him going anywhere. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's just like, oh, what do you think of their car? What do you think of this? And he's like, oh, I don't think they're going to be able to turn. You know what I mean? Like maybe this was all stuff that they sort of just generally knew. Because there's a couple of them. I feel like there's a couple of other folks, Helmut Marko as well, where they sort of kind of knew which way he stood on stuff. Like he was pretty openly chatty about it. But like you said, they weren't just like writing hit pieces on what he was talking about. Because obviously that paddock is probably pretty tight, especially for the media too, I imagine.
This BBC article says he is 65.
Okay.
Oh, I thought it was 69.
Rob's just got it on the mind.
For sure. But either way, I do think it is interesting the way that does limit the options, because like so many of the good candidates, they doesn't seem to have major objections to. The objection is, I'm not sure I would have the time or energy to devote to creating the framework that would allow me to succeed.
I can't fix her or whatever. I feel Williams seems like just too much work. Probably
they don't need an Adrian. They are not an Adrian Newey away from.
Right.
Like this is like, gee, Mr. Newey, you think you can help us build our soapbox derby car?
Oh.
I mean, the guy does design his cars on paper.
Does he? With just like his
Which
T-square?
does vibe a little bit with the Excel spreadsheet of Williams.
Yeah, they're light years ahead of him, it turns out.
No, except they couldn't let him do that. They'd be like, "I'm sorry, you have to use this AutoCAD like thing we have from like 1995."
They pull out the mouse with the big red ball on it.
Yeah, we can't actually do anything with these sketches. Our scanner doesn't get that kind of resolution.
We can't fit the paper in our scanner. It's too big.
Yeah,
these exactly. Draftsman pages are too big. It has to be A4. Yeah, sorry.
I mean, so so also it seems like he is under contract, but seems like his lawyers are, according to this BBC article, securing an early exit.
Yeah.
And that he would be able to start work on a potential 2026 car. What do you think that looks like? Like, if he goes to Ferrari,
that's the earliest.
Do we think that is like the 2026 car is a lock for the championship, or is this more nuanced than that?
The other thing that's weird about it is that, like, I think they have a year of gardening leave built into his contract. There was a whole thing where, like, he would need to have his contract terminated basically by the end of this season for him to be able to be available to work on a 26 car. And even then, he's only working on that car from the end of next season. You know, it's not like an in development.
Well, that's a good point.
Presumably a lot of people would prefer, if you're getting Adrian Newey, to have him working on the new car for a year or something, not like the 6 months prior beforehand. So that was what I had read. I'm not sure if it was that BBS article, it might have been somewhere else, but what I had read is that and again, this is all conjecture, and this might have changed by the time the podcast has gone up or people listen to it, but that, the lawyers had managed to get some situation where he would be basically free to work from Q4 2025. But that's a fairly, tight turnaround.
I could see the gamble being that 2026, what you're going to learn about is the power units, right? Like 2026, it's going to be, what are we dealing with in terms of power units? And it will actually be okay if he doesn't have the most input on the car for that year, because fundamentally you're probably going to live and die by how effectively your power unit works that first year. Or at least that is a very high likelihood. That was certainly what happened at the start of the turbo hybrid era. And then from there, now you can troubleshoot the gremlins in the engine, and now Adrian Newey's facility with aerodynamics and chassis design can really come to the fore. But that's a good point. Like, Red Bull has no incentive to let him to do him any favors on the way out. Like, it's not like it goes beyond just like being spiteful or petty. It is like he's kind of a strategic asset, and if he's not going to be with the company, it is in your interest to delay him working for anyone else as long as his contract with Red Bull allows.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, if he did go to Ferrari, though, it's a super group. Him and Hamilton, Ferrari, like Sean Todd.
Sean Todd's gone back. Great. Let's do it. Let's get the Manicale back there. Let's get the whole fucking Voltron this thing. Yeah, I mean, just the fact that like this year the only year where we didn't have any driver changes in like the history of F1. Was that right?
I think so.
I guess Daniel was. I guess he was in. Was he?
From the end of one year to the beginning of the next.
Okay. Makes sense. It was Sargent then and everything. So next year's going to look just completely bananas, regardless. Like, it's just going to look weird. Like, we're going to talk about the next domino to fall in the driver market in a second. But this does feel like one of those moments. This is kind of what, like, it's like the way in which Formula One is like World War One, where it's just like moments of boredom punctuated by moments of complete madness. And this is kind of what it is. This is like, sometimes this is what happens. You just get these monumental shifts, and it feels like we're going to get two of them. We're going to get a real shake up in the drivers market next year, which is going to make things interesting, and then just a lot of the chess pieces are moving. And this is a lot of the chess pieces have been moving. We've been talking a lot about all the folks who have gone here, changes at Williams, changes at Ferrari, Aston Martin, of course. There has been a lot of stuff going on. The lemon dance is happening, but it does feel like we're sort of entering a couple of years of a lot of change, and it's going to be a while until that settles down.
Well, just last thought on this, I would say is like the Hamilton move was that was the most eventful thing that's happened in ages. Like what a shocking twist that is, and that I really did not anticipate at all. I don't think anyone could have. The rate at which Red Bull, the dynasty, would just come completely apart over what just appears to be issues of like ego and ego-driven misconduct, and then jealousies within New York. It's incredible.
Although it remains to be seen whether that actually does occur. Newey could leave, Verstappen could stay, and they could rack up a few more championships. The Ferrari turnaround doesn't happen. It may not happen that fast, right?
May not happen at all.
May not happen at all.
Wow, we could be
Verstappen
watching
could
Drive to
leave,
Survive in 2 years, and Christian Horner secure on his throne of skulls.
Yeah,
Michael
he's
Corleone
season 6
at the end of
Cersei.
Godfather 2. No one around him. Jerry's
Yeah.
taking the kids and left, but he has his championships.
He's got sex pest tattooed across his forehead. Yeah, allegedly.
It's there in parentheses.
I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing that bothers me about this the most, is that I don't know. It seems like that guy maybe sucks and should have some repercussions. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what what happens with that civil suit, if it's happening or whatever. We don't know.
The appeal, I think, is happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
this is why Red Bull probably should have moved way more aggressively on this rather than the whole leak rumors to the press thing. Just go over it with a fine-tooth comb.
Your golden goose is leaving.
Yeah, it was. You
made this happen.
It's organizations will cling to what is the thing that will allow us the most stability, and it is turn a blind eye to this. And what you don't realize is a thing like those allegations can be the first signal that your stability is illusory. The rot's already set in if you have this misconduct happening. And that is not to say the importance of investigating sexual harassment allegations is what it could mean for the org. Right. But I'm saying the self-interest of even cynical organizations, this is a thing where if this comes out about a major leader in your organization, in addition to there's a lot of incentives for you to not want to rock the boat, but you have to regard it as this thing's already more turbulent than maybe we knew. Anyway,
and a lot of the reporting has been around how Newey is kind of apathetic to the political machinations of F1 teams, which is kind of rare, maybe in a powerful position that he has. So make no mistake about it, he's leaving because of how they handled this. Maybe he's leaving because of what happened or allegedly happened, but really why he's leaving is how the org has handled this and the current situation that's there, and he doesn't want anything to do with it. So it's a self-made wound. Him leaving, and at least him leaving in particular, is 100% on the shoulders of the Red Bull leadership.
The vibes, Your Honor.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with some more news about the rest of the moving pieces in the next season. So stay tuned. All right. We're back with some seats moving around. The big one, the big domino has fallen, as you mentioned, Danny, Lewis Hamilton. But the second one here, smaller, but not insignificant. Nico Hülkenberg is leaving Haas to join Sauber for the 2025 season, which will become Audi in 2026.
Critically.
Audi and Nico Hülkenberg, both German.
They are as the Germans. And we know this with Haas. We know this when we're building IKEA furniture or Lidl furniture or whatever the hell it was. German manufacturers love to have a German driver, and there's not that many of them around at the moment. Seb's been bouncing around, but
it's true. He was making noise about what would happen if I came back.
I don't think he's coming back for Sauber, But Hulkenberg started his career at Sauber. I mean, half the grid probably did, but, or at least dipped their toe in it. But what? Yeah, what about this guy? We thought he was dead to rights. Now we're gonna have him for another 2 years, probably 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, I could see, especially in a transition year, both in company and in regulation, you would want someone who has demonstrated recently that they can hop in something unfamiliar and perform, right? The other thing here is that Andreas Seidel, the CEO of Audi F1, previously worked with Hulkenberg. They had a Le Mans winning Porsche team.
I forgot that Seidel was involved in that. Yeah.
Of course, this also brings to mind, well, what happens to which driver is going? And we don't actually know, because they have also issued they've approached Carlos Sainz to join. So that implies that they don't want to keep Valtteri around if they can get Sainz. And this Autosport article points out that Zhou has the appeal of the Chinese market, where Audi is keen to sell more road cars. This, in theory, would leave Bottas looking to extend his F1 career at Alpine, or return to Williams, which would be cool.
Sorry, what's the theory what's the seat at Alpine that would be open?
Both of them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like rats jumping off.
This article just kind of takes it for granted that he would be going there.
The two French drivers are like, no, this thing's a loser. Right. I'll take my chances.
I'm out of here.
No, I just don't. I don't see that. I don't know.
Yeah. The interesting thing about this, though, is that Carlos Sainz is still considering his options, as one might imagine, because it's Sauber, going from Ferrari to Sauber. Well, it'd be Audi in another year, but a complete unknown. Sauber is not exactly fighting for, really even for points very often at this stage.
Yeah, and you can't say like, oh, well, maybe you'll get Hamilton at Mercedes, but Schumacher was first through the door there. Like, Schumacher and Nico Rosberg put in a few workman-like seasons with Mercedes as they sort of spun that machine up, and then Hamilton got it as it was ready to like lift off. You're right. I think like there's a very strong chance that like Sainz jumping over there, it's going to feel a lot more like Sauber for a few years than it's going to feel like Audi.
I don't. Yeah, it's funny they mentioned that like Audi will look. I'm sure we'd all like to sell more cars in China, but like Zhou to me feels
I would.
Yeah, like less of a okay. What's going to happen there? First of all, Hulkenberg is the B driver on this team. They're not getting Hulkenberg as the number one.
You think
driver.
so?
Oh yeah, like Audi are not going to. They're not dancing into F1 like this, trying to. I think what they're doing is they're getting their German driver squared off. They have their German driver. They want their German driver. And now for the other seat, they want to, and no, I really respect Hulkenberg's driving ability. And I think, who knows? He was, people said that put him in the right car early in his career. Maybe he'd be able to win a championship. Never really happened for him. I think he's very good. But I think this stage in his career, that what they will want to do is get a better driver in that seat. So I think if it's not Sainz, I don't think it's Zhou. I don't think it's Bottas. I think it's,
all right, check this out.
Sainz just, I don't know who else, but
check this out.
Alonso.
Hulkenberg vacates Haas.
Okay.
Oliver Behrman steps up into his seat. Hulkenberg kicks out Zhou and Bottas.
He kicks both of them out. Amazing.
Yeah, he drives both cars. Verstappen leaves Red Bull for Mercedes.
Jesus.
Filling Lewis Hamilton's seat. Antonelli fills or kicks George Russell out.
What?
For the other Mercedes.
Why is Russell
and then Russell goes to Sauber. What do you think?
Russell's never leaving his daddy Toto. Daddy Toto got him the seat. Daddy Toto, friend for life.
No, Daddy Toto wants someone besides Russell. Like, that is the implication of the I want Max.
Oh, really?
Like, whenever you're issuing statements like, Oh, I'd be stoked to drive alongside Max. He's a star. Your agent is frantically trying to get you out of there, or trying to get some guarantees that the Max thing is not going to happen. No, that's an interesting thought. All the pieces sliding around. Either way, Hulkenberg makes a lot of sense because they are going to be in a development phase, and Hulkenberg would be a terrific development driver.
He's consistent.
Yeah.
Do we think K-Mag is done after the end of the season?
I don't know. Like if Hulk leaves and Behrman comes in, you got K-Mag there.
I think he's good enough for Haas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about
his contract's up, but could be renewed.
The Alpines is a good point though. They're just stuck. Those lads are just stuck. They're not good enough to.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure their stock is high enough to really like. Ocon's beating Gasly, but in a bad car. I kind of feel like there's one of those things where it's like, I don't know how much I care about your performance in a car that sucks. I don't know.
Man, it could be a massacre. It could end up losing a lot of people.
It could be. Yeah. This driver season is going to be nuts.
Which
there might be a lot of people
already nuts.
A lot of people might be making bets because there might be an element of a lot of these guys are in their mid-20s if they haven't proved themselves yet. A lot of these guys have been in the sport a long time. Ocon and Gasly have been around there for a while. And I like a lot of these drivers, and I think a lot of these drivers are really good, but a lot of these folks are going to have to make bets on their cars, but also maybe they'll start making bets on some of the, like this quickly sort of overloaded young driver market that is waiting to get into F1. Maybe they'll start to just start pumping them in. I don't know.
You know what'd be dope as hell? Is if Andretti does come to the sport. We'll get to that in a minute, but if Andretti does end up coming into the sport and hires Alex Palou. Just kicks the shit out of everybody. If it's like, I'm sorry, these are America's pretenders to the Spanish throne.
Yeah. Just to keep everybody up to date here on the driver market, here are the drivers that have contracts. Stroll, just has question marks next to his name. Alonso through at least 2026. Leclerc at least through 2026. Norris through at least 2027. Piastri through 2026. Verstappen through 2028. And then Russell and Hamilton through 2025.
And now Hulkenberg through 2020, presumably six will maybe an extension. Yeah.
Yeah.
It says multi-year, so it's at least 2.
So Zhou, Bottas, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Gasly, Ocon, Sainz, Magnussen, Perez, Sargent, Albon. All their contracts end at the end of this year.
It's like Squid Games or whatever. Should be some sort of deadly thing they have to do.
Speaking of television, Danny, what else we got?
Yeah, I set myself up there, didn't I? Do you ever wonder that there's not enough of this awesome racing to watch? Do you ever wish you could just sit in front of the box and watch reruns of all of this?
A free ad-supported streaming television channel?
Absolutely, yes. Well, thanks to the good folks at Formula One and C15 Studios, it's happening. This subscription-free channel will be ad-supported if you've ever used Amazon's Freevee. Which is whenever you want to go watch a show on Amazon and it says, oh, you're paying a subscription, but unfortunately we're going to pump really annoying ads all over these. Most of these ad slots haven't been bought, so they're going to be house ads, but we're going to make you watch them anyway. Or Pluto TV, which I assume is something similar.
I actually like Pluto TV.
What's Pluto TV work?
You want to watch, you just want a channel of the Beverly Hillbillies?
Okay.
We got that. That's on Pluto TV. You can do that.
Giant Bomb Infinite.
You just want to watch, it's basically that for like, hey, remember old MTV?
Remember visiting your grandparents?
Yeah. You just want to watch music videos?
Friends?
Of the 80s?
24/7?
Here you go.
Cool.
There's a channel for that.
So imagine that, but Formula One, F1, F2, F3, and F1 Academy races, replays and highlights, full reruns of classic Grand Prix, and popular racing documentaries. According to this Racer.com article, there are 42 million fans of Formula One in the United States, and they want to make a channel that will generate ad revenue by having those people slurry style gorge on F1 content. that they have no agency in choosing. Reruns and content relating to the previous race will only become available 5 days after the Grand Prix has taken place, but will also include detailed highlights and expert analysis. So presumably they're just pulling the stuff off of F1 TV or something. I don't know. It's going to be available May 1st. It sounds like a thing you do to just generate more revenue from all the content you're making. Sky Sports F1 already kind of is this, but with like a bit more, I guess organization, scheduling, and stuff like that, and
and original content,
content that's presented live often. So yeah, but there you go.
Next time I'm at a Sport Clips, I think.
Right, yeah.
I'll have them turn it over to that.
They should just broadcast this on Kick, everyone's favorite gambling
of course
live streaming website. Yeah.
God, and then like
crypto.
After Dark.
Yeah.
The Grimoire hours.
Oh my God. It's me. It's me. The light turns on and I'm sitting in a velvet chair with that book.
Let me tell you another
out.
story of racing misfortune.
It's like Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah.
Or Garth Marenghi or something. Yeah.
Speaking of mysteries, Rob, the people demand your take on what's going on with Penske over in IndyCar.
Have you guys followed this at all? Have you
haven't,
seen
no.
this much?
I looked at some articles, yes.
All right.
Fill me in.
So, where's it begin this? Okay, so let's talk about how they get caught. So, IndyCar has a system called push to pass. And push to pass allows you to over rev the engine past what they're normally tuned to do, and it gives you about 50 extra horsepower. They give you like I think 200 RPM when you hit push to pass. But in IndyCar, it is time limited. You only have so much time with it to actually use throughout the race. So, and the memory serves like I think Formula E has something similar, right? Like a limited amount of like boost per race that you can activate. This is sort of IndyCar's equivalent.
They used to have a more simplified one like IndyCar, and now they have the weird sort of you drive F-Zero style in a different lane.
Yeah.
And you have your
And so this system's been around forever. And a bit like DRS, it is controlled from race control. They activate it, they deactivate it. So push to pass is only available to the drivers at times when it is available, for the entire field. So Long Beach was the second race of the season, third IndyCar event. They did like kind of a weird exhibition after their opener at St. Pete.
Yeah.
Which Penske's Joseph Newgarden won. During the morning warm-up before the Long Beach Grand Prix, race control has glitches with their system, and they can't activate push to pass. So nobody has push to pass. And yet, the Penske cars, all of them, and only the Penske cars, are lighting up on telemetry.
No.
Using push to pass.
No.
And it's such a thing that shouldn't happen. Like it's controlled from race control. It's a system that doesn't throw glitches like this. This shouldn't happen. So the minute that happens, like, their equivalent scrutineers, everything, all hell breaks loose. It's
right.
like we got to figure out what's going on with those cars. So they run the race. They, I guess, address whatever is going on with the Penske cars before that race. But then after the Long Beach race, they go back and they investigate what happened in St. Pete.
Oh.
And they find that the Penske cars had access to push to pass during phases of the race where they weren't supposed to.
You're kidding.
Push to pass is not active during the starts. It's not active during restarts. But like DRS, you have to go around once before push to pass activates. And yet, there they were, using push to pass when nobody else had it available in the field.
How was nobody noticing that was it like they were doing it at the start so that they weren't over revving? Because like presumably is that telemetry public like it is on F1, where people are able to like see
I am not clear on this part because I am surprised it wasn't picked up immediately. And even if the telemetry isn't public, you would assume it's reviewable by like race stewards. But maybe they don't really go over it that closely.
Yeah.
The assumption is if there's nothing to investigate, you don't investigate. I don't know. Either way, so when they did go back and they did review telemetry, and they reviewed footage from the cars. Yeah, they saw them using push to pass when it shouldn't have been available. Now,
That means the drivers are
interestingly-
also in on it. And like,
Well, hold on. Now here's where it gets real interesting.
I'm like, this is crazy.
So Joseph Newgarden, who won that race, was all over push to pass at starts, restarts.
my
Fuck it.
God.
He was just like mashing it down. Many seconds of illegal push to pass through
Wow.
the St. Pete race. Scott McLaughlin used it once, like on a restart, and then didn't use it. Will Power, who is the old vet of the organization, one of the best IndyCar drivers of all time, didn't use it at all.
Good man. He had the
So-
willpower to not use it. See? See?
Exactly. So, IndyCar disqualifies Newgarden and McLaughlin for
Right.
illegal use of push to pass. They lose all their points. The team, I think, gets a big fine. They dock Will Power points and they leave it at that. They don't take away his finishing, and there's no additional penalties. Now, key thing, IndyCar is owned by Roger Penske. Like, he's been around the sport and he's got so much money. He's so important to the sport. He runs a racing team through his proxy team principal, Tim Cindric, and then he runs all of IndyCar. Plus, he owns Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So this guy is like,
And the
he
company
is the
who
big
makes
wheel.
push to pass.
So, Newgarden at the Barber Grand Prix this weekend gives this press conference. Very politician got caught like in a scandal type vibes. And he's emotional and he's like, guys, we fucked up. And he's like, that's on me. And then he tells the story. Because of that exhibition event between the two races,
Now.
the thermal exhibition, where push to pass was legal for every single minute of it,
Right.
he was like, I just got it into my head that like they changed the rules for the season and push to pass was like cool to use whenever.
What?
Like, we're big dummies. But like that's what we just sort of like, we're like, well, just remember, push to pass is good everywhere.
Wow, he's literally just pleading ignorance. He's just like, I'm a dumbass.
Well, and the thing is, Newgarden's public persona has always been like, oh, you're a bit of a himbo.
Okay, right.
Like there is a bit like where he's a good-looking broy dude,
Right.
A little intense, but you can almost believe like, yeah, I guess maybe I could see you like having a goof like this, but I don't know. Scott McLaughlin did not back up the story.
Okay.
He was
Yeah.
like, no, I never heard about a rule change.
Yeah.
I just used push to pass in the race and it worked, and I used it once, I didn't use it again. And then Will Power gave me the most interesting comments. He was like, I feel like if I pushed the push to pass button at a time when it's not supposed to work and it worked, I would probably put my hand up and say, hey guys,
Right.
what's going on here?
Yeah.
But he was like, I was never confused about the rules. The rules are what they've always been, which is how every other driver on the Indy grid responded. Like, and the thing is this, the NBC commentary crew, also like very deferential in general to the sport they're covering and such. When they heard Newgarden's explanation, they were just like, that's really hard to believe. There's multiple parts of that that are hard to believe. Because here's the other thing just to bear in mind, the final thing I'll say about like the other part of the scandal. Marshall Pruitt over at Racer, who, if you listen to our IndyCar primer, he's like one of the best like motorsports journos in the U.S., covers IndyCar really extensively, used to be a pit crew member.
Oh,
a
that's
mechanic.
cool. Yeah.
He wrote this piece talking about the scandal and also why other like crew chiefs don't buy it. And basically it's that there's parts of the system that governs the use of push to pass that the teams aren't even supposed to interact with. That it's controlled, that only the engine manufacturers like touch it, and then beyond them, IndyCar race control has access to it, and then there's a very limited thing that the teams can control, and there's no way that they could have screwed around with this without having sort of malign intent. Now, there were known vulnerabilities that would have had to be exploited, but that's just it. It would have been an exploit.
You had to knowingly exploit it. Like,
yeah, it's just really hard to come up with we just goofed, and then we managed to circumvent this like kind of locked down system. So you got the argument that like we just made a mistake and we forgot what the rules are. Hard to believe for an organization that is, one of the most professional and put together on the grid. The drivers and all the mechanics didn't know the rules. That's weird. And then in that understanding, they were also able to break the push to pass system in a way that that it hasn't been broken. And it's real bad because what everyone's thinking about is if there just hadn't been this glitch with race controls release of the hold on push to pass, they would not have been caught on like during the Long Beach Grand Prix. And then there's the question of how long has this been going on? Joseph Newgarden won his first IndyCar, his first Indianapolis 500 last year.
Right.
I don't know, like, how much gets called into question, especially if he's bullshitting about this.
Yeah, I'm sure people are all over the tape now to see.
Yeah,
what's going on? But it's like in a way, I'm like, this to me is like, it's not. I don't know. Is it? It's to me, this is in like the same realm as like Crashgate. Like I know Crashgate involved like somebody actually maybe getting hurt. So that's different. But this is like organized, breaking of the rules. So you can like this is about as unsportsmanlike and against like the rules and ethos of the sport as I can possibly imagine. Like I'm surprised they're not coming. Maybe it is like you said. It's just these folks are so ingrained in the show, and how else do you? Maybe if it was later in the season, it would be a bigger slap on the wrist. I mean, should they be banned for the next 6 races or something? Like it seems crazy that this is.
How do you ban Roger Penske from IndyCar?
Well, again, like we're talking, go back to the Christian Horner thing. This is almost where you have to, if you're Penske, you almost have to come down harder on your own team. Like this is a thing where it's like, because like I'm with you, Danny. Like this is not a marginal like, it's a minor rules infraction, but like, is it cheating? Yeah, it is. It's 200 revs that like they're not supposed to have access to at a time when all the cars are.
Especially Newgarden was tapping it like a fucking pigeon in a Skinner box.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's a disaster, and so. Yeah, like it's a really bad look. It is hard. It is really hard to come up with a like good faith, honest mistake version of this. It calls a lot of things into question. And for IndyCar, there's a bit of you would almost be better served by just coming down, risking being seen as overly harsh because this is the harshest penalty in IndyCar history.
Right.
But it is such an unprecedented infraction that I'm not sure like. We took away those race results. I'm not sure that covers it.
Yeah.
But either way, like this is one of those things where if you like, I do not think you want a Houston Astros situation here.
Right.
Where it is, we're just going to move on from this because your organization is important. Everyone respects you guys and we pretend it didn't happen. I think you'd almost be better served by like, Penske's a rich team. They can afford to take a big hit. Like maybe strip their points for half the season and like multi-race ban for Newgarden.
Totally, that seems like appropriate.
Yeah, yeah. Because then it's like, look, maybe you're not a liar, but we're gonna come down harshly on you, and people will feel at the end of it that like it was a harsh punishment, and maybe they'll welcome you back. But I think he tries to weasel out of this with like this story that feels kind of concocted. And just one last detail. One of the things NBC spotted that was like, it seems like it was a genuine mistake because during the Long Beach Grand Prix, he was like, golly, he was on the radio being like, DRS isn't working. But there's a theory that the team already knew they'd been caught, and now he's asking questions over radio, staging confusion that's not real. Yeah. Because the question is like, what was he saying during... Did he remark at all?
I watch a lot of YouTube channels of like people who like call 911 after they've murdered somebody, and you can tell the thing that they're saying over the radio is to try and not incriminate themselves. Like, oh my God, they've been dead for 2 hours, and you're like, how the fuck would you know that? That's what this sounds like.
Yeah, it's not good. Like, And I grew up watching the Penske team. I think I like Newgarden a lot. I like Scotty Mack. I like all the drivers, like the team.
Right.
And I'm like, this dog don't hunt.
Right.
Like this is ooh, God, that phrase lands differently these days. But yeah, it's bad.
Well, thank you, Rob. Speaking of the IndyCar fingers getting everywhere,
Right.
Danny, what's going on with Andretti?
Yeah, just a little update on because we obviously last time we talked about Andretti, and Rob gave us that great breakdown of the rejection from F1 and sort of what that meant for their Cadillac co-deal to try and break into the sport and get that extra seat or buy it from somebody else, however it actually happens. We know that Andretti Cadillac wants to get into F1, and basically there's an Autosport article talking about how they are fairly quickly trying to get a bunch of people into this F1 headquarters that they've set up around Silverstone. So there's 60 new vacancies, including senior F1 roles, such as head of aero development, Adrian, if you want to come over here.
Oh my God, that would be incredible.
Imagine that, the American team. You could be like, then it would be like Adrian. You know what I mean? It'd be that'd be the meme we'd go for.
Did you just watch that movie too?
I didn't. I'd seen Rocky many times. Okay. Yeah. Head of mechanical design and various other engineering positions, including aerodynamics and CFD, model design, electronics, control systems, IT, vehicle performance, manufacturing, and presumably catering. They are looking for a bunch of people. While they were talking about this and getting the news out, Autosport asked Michael Andretti about some of the fallout from the deal and what he thinks it's all about. He was convinced the F1's rejection was based definitely on the financial side, as he and his son Michael, who own and run the team, felt they were never told about any other convincing reasons. Quote here from Michael: "We're trying to say we'll do whatever you ask us, but they haven't told us yet, except for some excuses. Oh, we don't want you coming on. We don't want you to be embarrassed," he added. But we don't want to embarrass ourselves. The fact is, General Motors have made it clear that they're excited about the project. They have long-term commitment there, and I don't know what else we can do. So Andretti is chugging along with their commitment to F1. We're not. It seems like that it's probably money-based from the outside looking in as well. But if nothing else, they have this headquarters and they're staffing up and attempting to break in. But I don't know. I don't know where this thing's gonna land.
It's gonna be real awkward if they're like, "Oh yeah, no, you're not getting in," and they've already built a factory and have a bunch of people working on it.
Yeah, like, did they even hear what the 2026 regulations are if they're not a team yet? You know what I mean? How do you... It's the whole thing seems very like, build it and they will come.
It also maybe feels like they know there's a number that they're just going to have to pay for an anti-dilution fee, and they're just going to meet it. That's the other thing they're signaling is like, all right, you're not going to let us in with the $200 million. We get it.
Right.
But we will pay more because we're committed to this.
Is it Haas? Is it Alpine? One of you put your hand up. Come on. Who wants out?
A couple quick ones here. We had mentioned last time that the F1 Commission was getting ready to decide on whether they're going to give points down to 12th place. They are postponing that until a July meeting. Okay. So, quote, further analysis can be done, according to this racefans.net article. But it could still be agreed and come in for next season. However, we do have an agreement on a new type of camera, a rearward-facing camera that will be, again, according to this article, installed on or within the crash structures at the back of all cars, starting from the Spanish Grand Prix in June. They are being added to give an additional angle for television coverage. So, I guess...
I wonder where they are.
Different from... I think they'll be lower.
Yes.
I'm thinking more like we get the front wing camera, but we'll get one of those in the rear, which I think
they can't put it on the rear wing, I don't think, just because that thing's fairly delicate.
No, I mean that level.
Yeah.
So like down in the diffuser,
where the light
rain
is? Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. Fair enough. So they can use it to back out of car parks and stuff. And
right. They also discussed a possible change of venue for next year's testing because we're beginning in Australia instead of Bahrain. So that has.
Well, it won't be Australia.
Some calls.
We're going back to Malaysia.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Where? Yeah.
New Zealand.
Where would it? Yeah. Sure. Go back to that. You know a track I totally forgot about? I was flicking through YouTube videos a couple of days ago, and there was a little breakdown
Korea?
about that. No, the Indian one.
Yeah.
Where they racing that Indian track for about 4 or 5 years, and then they tried to convert it into a MotoGP track, and then it was like the worst. They couldn't get visas for all the MotoGP drivers. The whole thing was like,
God, I remember
yeah. Do you remember all that? I totally forgot about that Indian track. It's like it got like erased from my mind, like Will Smith with that little Men in Black thing, or he smacked me. Either way, I forgot it. But testing's a good point because they generally want to do it somewhere where it's warm, so they don't, and it's early in the year for it.
And convenient to the first race.
Yeah. And Australia, they can't.
That's
that's
kind of a
park.
new thing, though.
They can't just do that there a week earlier. I don't think. Maybe they can, but
I guess
They
you're
used
right,
to
Rob.
do
They used to do it in
testing
Spain.
well in advance.
yeah.
It's really recent. It's only the Bahrain thing. They're like, we're going to do preseason testing the week before the race.
Oh, no,
Perez
that's
was
true.
always like
Yeah.
a month before the race.
Yeah. And even Barcelona was usually a couple of weeks, right? Yeah, so maybe, I don't know, maybe they just do it. Did they just do it in Silverstone?
Cool.
Or just, I don't know.
I don't know.
Go back. Look, you have to
before-
return to Jerez.
Yeah.
Before we get to the last one here, I did want to point out The Verge has coverage of the first autonomous racing league race. So remember Robo Race?
I do.
It was the proposed
Robo
driverless racing support series for Formula E. Never really got off the ground. There was a test. A car drove immediately into a wall. There's another one here that they're trying this again, and this time in Abu Dhabi. It's the Abu Dhabi Autonomous Racing League, A2RL. And this article from The Verge has a lot of really good animated GIFs. So I'm going to put this in the show notes.
Okay.
It went better than Robo Race,
Okay.
and these cars look cooler because they're Super Formula chassis.
Okay.
But there's still some kinks to work out.
Can I tell you how haunting I find it that they are designed in the same way that you would design a car for a human to be sitting in the middle of it? They are still arbitrarily designed that way, but then also have that part covered up, I guess. It's just very...
Well, it's like this. It's almost like this. I don't know if it's an intake or is that's where the sensors are, but it looks like a Cylon. It looks like
you're right.
It's
got a letterbox, like just where the human would be. Yeah,
right.
I'm surprised they're not just calling it like AI racing or so. You know what I mean? Like Robo Race was such a 2018 concept. I feel like these days it's like, yeah, we're gonna get these cars. Every time they do a lap, they learn it better. And then they fucking still crash into
And
a
then they
wall
start
'cause none of this
hallucinating
works.
tracks that aren't there.
Exactly. They start thinking about that Indian track they haven't been on.
They autocomplete a different corner.
Exactly. Yeah.
A good lap might look kind of like this if there were a hairpin here.
Right.
They're frantically,
finally, Danny.
smashing push to pass as they make the way around the track. Last story here. This one took me by surprise. Apparently, Netflix Brazil is making a 6-part series on the life of one Ayrton Senna. It is a dramatization. It is not a documentary like the award-winning documentary Senna, which if you have never watched, you should definitely check out. It is arguably the best Formula One documentary, perhaps motorsport documentary. It's in the conversation at least.
And listen to our Patreon.
Absolutely. God, when did we do that one? 20
Pretty
or
early,
something?
yeah.
2019. It says 15. Who knows? The series was created in conjunction with Senna's family and their Senna Brands company, which manages the use of his identity and raises funds for the Ayrton Senna Institute. The institute was founded by Senna's sister, Viviane, to provide opportunities for development to young Brazilians, which does come up in the documentary as well. Apparently, it's going to cover the story of his arrival in Britain to compete in Formula Ford and his subsequent rise into Formula One. So a 6-part series. Presumably, it's been filmed in Brazilian Portuguese, and that would be pretty cool if we get like a sort of...
The guy looks a lot like
he does
like Senna. It's I'll put a link to that trailer as well. It's remarkable.
Are we close to the date? I think we might be. Yes, it was May 1st when he passed away. I think that was it a few days after the crash in Imola? I first forget. Of course, that weekend, F1 also lost Roland Ratzenberger. There is a great little mini documentary on the Formula One YouTube channel. If you want to check that out, Ratzenberger, of course, sort of two people died that weekend, and his death is largely overshadowed because Ayrton Senna was effectively the sort of the god king of Formula One at that time. But Ratzenberger crashed. It was second practice, I think it was. It wasn't qualifying. In a completely unrelated, totally different part of the track. Of course, Barrichello also had a horrific track that weekend. It was just a top to tail, pretty terrible weekend for the sport. But yeah, a lovely little video about his career and life. I think it's about 20 minutes long over on YouTube. Oh no, sorry, it's on Sky Sports' F1. Sorry, Sky Sports put it together. I take it back.
It's on their YouTube channel?
I believe it is theirs. I can double check. I think it was Sky Sports F1's YouTube channel. Popped up in my feed. The algo fed it to me. I had no agency in the matter.
All right. Well, Danny, that is it for the news. Do you want to take us through the track walk for the Formula One Crypto.com Miami Grand Prix?
Yes, I made a point of writing that down. Formula One Crypto.com Miami Grand Prix is happening for the third time. Our first Grand Prix here was in 2022, just a couple of years ago.
When the sponsor pairing and the location really line up, it's special.
They do, right? You're not being facetious. That is... No, you're right.
No,
Yeah, I agree with you. It seems beautiful. In fact, they're in Simpatico for these 57 laps that we will enjoy around this 5.4 kilometer or 3.35 miles track. This is known as a temporary circuit, which is a circuit that is entirely, I believe, fake roads, or at least like maybe some part of it is technically a thoroughfare within the car park it's set in.
Okay. These are not roads that cars are normally driving on.
Correct. These are not.
So that's why it's not a street circuit.
Exactly.
They are parking on.
They are parking,
which is why they need to add those rear-facing cameras on the F1 cars.
Yes, to get themselves into this complex. This is the Hard Rock Stadium complex. This is the home of the Miami Dolphins.
This is out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Finkel, Einhorn. God, I have to watch that movie. I haven't seen that in forever. There's 19 corners.
It doesn't hold up well.
Does it not? Does it not?
No.
Oh, God. Now that I think about the central antagonist, yeah, that's boy. Yeah, all right. Swing and a miss. 19 corners, 3 straights, and 3 DRS zones. One of them's pretty small. It's on the start-finish straight. Not the longest start-finish straight in the world. Then they have I love these tracks because it's built in a car park and they can do whatever they wanted. And they just go, it's just a bunch of squiggles. First sector is just a bunch of like, Senna S's, whatever. Well, maggots and Beckett's, but like smaller and crappier. We'll put them in there. Then there's a sort of a wiggly straight, which is pretty long in sector 2. And then there's the mother of all straights in sector 3. And in previous years, we've had like they haven't been that boring. They've been fairly interesting races. We've had some overtaking, high abrasions. We've had a lot of pit stops here. Not much to do with. I think we've always had sun all the time here. So it's not necessarily. It's in the middle. I feel like it's not as boring. I think Miami. I have at least gone in. I want to speak for anyone else. I've gone in with low expectations, and it has maybe just met them. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I from my own internal tracking document here, I have 2 races in a row. It has scored a 2 out of 4.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I've labeled a strategy race.
Yeah. It's all pits and yeah. So there you go. But we get to see maybe T-Pain will turn up and sing that cool Miami Dolphins song he wrote. That's pretty good.
Will the boats be more driver introductions? They call him the Hulk because you don't want to see him angry.
Did they say that last year?
I think it was that race they brought him out and introduced him that way, and it was just like
Will I Am or someone?
Love it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
Gosh.
like yes. Nico Hulkenberg, just a rage monster. It's true. This is why they call him the Hulk.
Smashed up that Microsoft Surface store. I forgot about the boats. I forgot about the big marina. See, that's funny. That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's put like flamingos everywhere. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you know.
I genuinely like the boats. I hope they bring them back.
Margaritaville. That's what they should do. We started with Buffett. We should end with
Yeah.
it. They should do that. Did you say Kenny Rogers or
The whole
Buffett
place.
at the start of this podcast? I forget.
Jimmy
It
Buffett.
was okay.
Buffett.
Yeah, they should do that. That'd be cool. Lean into it. Florida man, the race.
They're leaning into the humidity. It's going to be 63% with 85 degrees Fahrenheit, 29 Celsius.
It's hot.
Wind, actually, we got some wind at around. I'm looking now at sprint qualifying time because it is yet another
it?
sprint weekend.
Oh my God, I forgot.
2 in a row, baby.
Wow.
13 miles an hour out of the east, or 21 kilometers an hour. Precipitation, 6% at sprint qualifying time. And it looks like, what is that? 20% at sprint time. And then 3% qualifying time.
This is humidity,
and-
not rain.
no, sorry, this is
Oh, it
precipitation.
is? Okay.
Yeah, and then 10% race time. So yeah, not strong precipitation for across the weekend, but those temps and that humidity seeming about the same. Wind also pretty steady. So
That type of precipitation as well might be like they might have to pull all the cars in because of the lightning. You know what I mean? If you're getting that, if we're getting those
There's a lot of
summer
lightning down
rains,
there.
you know what I mean?
but it does dry quickly.
You can't reason with hurricane season.
Does that ever cause a problem for like NASCAR and Indy or anything? I guess tornadoes are pretty
Lightning?
specific. Yeah, storms
Oh.
and stuff.
I feel like just about every sport, like once a year, you hear about a place having to evacuate people like the tunnels during
funny.
lightning strikes.
Okay.
But I think
Like
the
baseball
racing
game probably or
calendars,
something. Or
yeah, but I feel like the racing calendars don't really, America's big. Hurricanes are big, but like the odds of them being a complication for a race happening somewhere in the South is not high.
yeah, fair.
All right. Well, heading into the Miami weekend, we have the Drivers' Championship looking like this. Max Verstappen is on top with 110 points. Sergio Perez has 85. Charles Leclerc has 76. Carlos Sainz has 69.
Nice.
And in fifth place, Lando Norris with 58. Behind him, Oscar Piastri has 38. George Russell has 33. Fernando Alonso has 31. Lewis Hamilton has 19 points. And in 10th place, Lance Stroll with 9. Behind him, Yuki Tsunoda's got 7. Oliver Behrman has 6. Nico Hulkenberg has 4. And Kevin Magnussen has 1. In 15th place through 21st, we have Albon, Ocon, Zhou, Ricardo, Gasly, Bottas, and Sargent with 0. In the constructor standings, Red Bull Racing is on top with 195 points. In second is Ferrari with 151. McLaren is in third with 96. Mercedes in fourth with 52. And Aston Martin in fifth with 40. And then a big jump down to RB in sixth with 7. Gene Haas and team have 5 points. And Williams, Alpine, and Sauber all have 0. If you would like to join the standings yourself, you could do so using the Shift+F1 official fantasy league link in the show notes. Put a team on there. Show us
Give
up.
it a funny name.
You're probably gonna do better than us.
Here's one. Here's a free one. Lance Stroll. You got to play the Stroll toll. There you go. Stroll toll. There you go.
I think that's
Is it?
all right.
That's probably taken. It's true.
You can also send us an email with your fun puns at shift.f1podcast@gmail.com or f1.cool/emails. Rob, I was just taking a gander over these. Do you mind if I switch mine and Danny?
Gander Mountain.
Yeah, go for it.
Taking a Gander Mountain.
But either way, I'm leading off.
Okay.
Please.
So Scott writes, is this new, or am I just now noticing what they did to our boy Valtteri? In the F1 intro where they introduce all the drivers, just after Valtteri is shown, they cut to a tire and a wheel nut. That's either a crazy coincidence or someone at F1 TV has a twisted sense of humor. Now, I need...
What? I have to watch this.
Check
I have to
Discord.
watch this.
I just sent this in. I need to... Whoops, I sent it in the wrong place. I sent it to the wrong channel. That is my basketball group text.
They're gonna be very confused.
That's gonna mystify some people.
Is it just the F1 intro?
Here.
Oh my god! Oh my god! It's not even that they zoom in on like a wheel. They literally zoom in on like all of the parts that got stuck together. That's incredible.
It is so specific, and I think we could. I believe F1 put it up on their YouTube channel at the beginning of the season, so we could go look at that video to be sure.
I'm on it right now. 2 months ago, I'm watching the F1 when it went up on February 29th.
And the nuts there.
And it's here, and it's Valtteri Bottas turning, and then it shoots to, like, what do you call it? An exploded view of the wheel, right? Where it's all the part, and it's literally like the hubcap wheel, and then the like 3 different things that got, what's it called again?
You know what? I'm like, boy, what a crazy coincidence because of the Sauber stuff, but that's them making fun of his past run-ins
as well.
Too.
You're right. You're right.
Like it didn't require foresight to do this; it required hindsight.
That's incredible. Oh my god, I will laugh every time I watch the intro. Thank you, Scott. That is amazing, and so will everyone else who listens to this podcast. What a gift you have given us.
Should I take
Drew,
this next one?
You want to read this modest proposal?
Yeah, I saw the word baseball in here, so I wanted to.
Danny's not qualified to talk about. He doesn't know anything about baseball.
I just like baseball.
I like
okay,
baseball.
Andrew writes, bear with me. Always love an email that starts with that. F1 has grown, which is good, but as well covered by you guys, F1 is bursting at the seams when it comes to keeping up with a packed calendar as it pertains to logistics, manpower, and general fatigue for those inside and outside of F1. On the other hand, there is an increased interest for tracks and teams to get their hands on F1. How do we decrease output from individual teams and their travel and manpower, but increase opportunities for newcomers? Baseball. Old school MLB conference alignment. F1 West. 6 teams, 10 races. Miami, Austin, Vegas, Mexico, Brazil, Spain, France, Imola, Denmark, parentheses, other track.
Why are we adding Denmark in? That's not a
Not
city.
sure.
Okay.
F1 East, 6 teams, 10 races. Australia, Singapore, Japan, China, Bahrain, Jeddah, Azerbaijan, Hungary, Austria. Both divisions start far east and west and converge to an 8-team playoff of five races held at Monaco, Spa, Monza, Silverstone, and because they have money, Abu Dhabi. Teams eliminated get to use all their time not racing in development. Fans get more races more often as both divisions can alternate weeks. Less overall races per team. More room for more growth.
Can I add something into this?
Please.
Also, there's a draft every year, and everyone gets thrown back in because there's not enough rookies for an actual draft. There's not enough seats.
And that's how Haas gets Hamilton.
Exactly right.
That's right. They got first round pick.
Man,
Andrew, this is a great idea.
it's a great idea. F1 West sounds better than F1 East. That's the only problem. Is that some of those tracks are good, but none of those they're all based in England. None of them are going to want to spend that much time stuck in Asia and or Australasia. That's tough.
I don't know, but the thing is, it's a harder schedule, I think, probably with F1 East. But there's winners there, right? Japan's a great track.
Singapore's
Bahrain
back.
is a great track. Azerbaijan is generally a winner.
Japan,
Austria, good lineups.
Yeah.
The other thing that a lot of people wrote in, people really like the idea of F1 relegation.
Ooh.
Now, it would require a reworking of multiple layers of motorsport. This would require a true revolution of being we're going to make Formula 2 less Becky, and it's going to turn into more of a, like, it's going to be the new League One of F1. But that could be very cool. But I think the big thing is people are tired of the backmarker teams. Like, people, there's a lot of people writing emails that are like, what do you do here exactly? And then proposing relegation as a panacea.
Relegation is great in like European soccer. It's pretty fantastic. It's also like the type of thing you can do in like there's so many teams disappear. Like that's the thing, I guess. And also the only reason it really works in England is because there's like several thousand football teams that, you're able to have basically like 4 main divisions and then, 4 or 5 non-league divisions underneath that. It's the one. It's funny because like as much criticism as I have about, I guess every sport in some way, but like American sports, they're weirdly, they don't have any relegation stuff, but they're like oddly more egalitarian than European sports. Like the whole draft thing is the most socialist shit I've ever heard, and it's like an American
that's
sport.
True. Like there is no American equivalent to a Man U, a Man City situation.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Wouldn't be tolerated.
No.
But the weird thing is, it does engender tons of, like, the franchise and cartel model does engender a ton of teams that are like, oh, you're not even here to compete anymore. Like, you are just banking TV rights money.
Yes.
And you aren't doing shit.
Okay, I hear, yeah. At least the draft encourages the teams to go. It's, oh, man. Yeah, relegation's wild, though, because like, right now, the Premier League, there's obviously a fight at the top. There's the fight for the Champions League positions, but all eyes are on the bottom, and the final day is complete bedlam because all the games start at the same time on the final day of the Premier League because they have to, because you don't want anyone strategically drawing or winning or doing whatever.
Oh, wow.
So the last day is chaos because it's like, oh, they've got 1 point because they're drawing, oh, but they've got 3 points, but their goal difference is better, and it's like the last day of the like BBC's main program for like talking about soccer, match of the day, instead of showing the games one by one, they bounce between them all, and it's completely banana. It's amazing.
Put it up on the video wall like Back to the Future 2.
It's so good. Yeah, you should. There are like you can watch like final day relegation battles, match of the day on YouTube.
This is the stuff that Steve Kornacki could sink his teeth into. Not these bogus like trot him out to explain like the wild card picture, because that's just not interesting enough for our friend Steve. But like a relegation map would be fascinating, I think. Anyway,
Danny, teams do disappear. Just look at the Oakland A's.
Oh, and the Raiders and the fucking Golden State Warriors. Let's be honest.
Hey, they're just down the way in Sacramento, Drew.
They're going to be stuck there. That Vegas deal is never going to go through, and they're going to be playing at that double A. It's a Giants affiliate. The field they're playing at is a Giants team.
I was on with Patrick on our sports podcast this week, which was like The Athletic just did a piece about the A's move to like how bad it is.
Good piece.
But I did not realize their owner, they don't have the money to do this. This entire thing hinges on a referendum in Vegas, in Nevada. Basically, voters are like, do you approve of the subsidies to get the stadium built? And it's polling badly. It's probably going to get voted down. At which point, doesn't seem like he's got the money to build this thing.
So they're going to be stuck in Sacramento A's, baby. Let's go.
They're not even they're just called the A's.
Oh, you're right, the A's, yeah. And
there's no city attached to it.
And that field can fit like 6,000 people, which in fairness is like the average attendance for the past couple of years. But
it's less than 6,000, I think. I want to say. I think it's a small capacity field.
Yeah,
it's a small field too, so you're gonna have a lot of home runs at home.
It's great.
Yeah. Anyway,
Danny,
last email. This one coming in from
Caroline.
Caroline.
It kind of answers itself, but I just love it. This came in before China is the key information.
Oh, okay. Every time I'm watching with a friend, he complains about the cars not, and I quote, getting on the ass of the car in front of them during a safety car. Is there a reason that the cars, when they know safety car is ending, consistently have distance between them and the car ahead? Yeah, I guess China's one reason is that like the The F1 cars don't have ABS, and they don't even like braking and locking up their tires because then it ruins their tires. So they are very they have a lot of motivation to not have to slam on the brakes because they mightn't be able to stop their car and crash into the one ahead of them. The other reason I think is because if you're trying to make up the distance on the car ahead of you, if you're trying to get a better start than the car ahead of you, if you're like in second, you've only got Max Verstappen to look at. If you are further back, you have lots of cars ahead of you to look at. And oftentimes the driver is actually looking further downfield and they're trying to get the jump on the car in front of them. So they need a gap to be there so they can fill the gap and overtake it. So if they're too close, then they can't actually accelerate at the, when they want to, because they might have to worry about the car ahead not speeding up fast enough. But also, because you never know when Lance Stroll is around. You got to be careful.
Yeah, I gotta believe like Caroline was just teed up, and I hope I had the chance to be like, you see, just like own your friend doing that. But yeah, that is a good point. That there are nuances to getting a good restart, and then like the guy in the front has so much control over like when he lets the field speed up, which is kind of bizarre, but.
Where was that one where Grosjean and all of them? It wasn't Turkey. Where was it? During COVID. The one where they all, on this restart, just completely smashed into each other. Do you remember?
I remember.
I forget. It wasn't. Yeah, I forget.
Well, Australia, obviously, last year was a shit show.
On a restart?
The end of the race restart.
Yes.
Right.
Although that was a standing start. One. That was a standing start. It wasn't a rolling start.
Yeah, I guess, damned if you do. Yeah, damned if you don't.
Shift+F1podcast@gmail.com or f1.cool/emails. You can also hit us up on the socials, which are linked in the show notes. That's us around the internet. Should we take it around the world, Danny?
Let's race around the world. Yeah.
The Formula One Academy is supporting Formula One this weekend in Miami. We've got Super GT at the Fuji Speedway in Oyamacho. Suntogun, Shizuoka Prefecture.
Classic.
That's right. We've got the Craftsman trucks at the Kansas Speedway in Kansas City, Kansas.
Oh, take that, Missouri.
Yep. For the Heart of America 200. Really
sponsored
just
by Crown Royal.
The Motocross Grand Prix of Portugal is happening at the Cosmódromo Internacional de Algeda in Algeda, Portugal. And we got NASCAR. Also in the Kansas part of Kansas.
Yes, real Kansas.
For
pure,
the
uncut Kansas.
Advent Health 400.
Break out your calendar. I know it's not December 1st no more.
Might be some
time.
pills in there for you.
I think it's Orthodox Easter's coming up, so crack it out. Gregorian calendar. Nothing more American than the Gregorian calendar.
And Formula One is this weekend. It's a sprint weekend, be warned. Yet again, Friday, May 3rd, things kick off. Not quite as crazy a schedule as we have had for the last few races. Free Practice 1 starts at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2, followed by the sprint qualifying at 4:30 p.m. On ESPN2 as well. On Saturday, we have the sprint kicking off at noon Eastern on ESPN, followed by qualifying for the race at 4 p.m. on ESPN.
It's confusing.
I know. And the Sunday race, May 5th at 4 p.m. on ABC. Get those rabbit ears out.
Beautiful.
Over the air. OTA.
480p. 480i.
480i, baby. None of this fast, over-the-top, free ad-supported streaming television.
Yeah. You can watch it later on Fubo or whatever it was called. What was it called?
Pluto.
Amazon.
Yeah, 5
Fubo.
days from now.
Yeah, exactly. You can watch it ad nauseum then.
And that's it for our episode here. Final thoughts, Danny?
The racing came back to Petaluma last weekend. It was a great time.
Oh.
We had mini stocks. Had some no sprint cars. We had a couple of the smaller cars, which is pretty cool. Actually met a Shift+F1 listener, Highland over there. Had a good time. Hung out, watched some races. maybe we'll get like a little Shift F1, little cabal going at the Petaluma Motor Speedway. But it was good. Racing's back. They're doing monster trucks this weekend. Not sure if I'm going to go, but we'll see.
Wow, isn't it a tiny track?
It is. It's a very, very small Adobe oval.
Those
right,
monster
you were telling
trucks
me.
seem more monstrous.
I know.
That sounds
It's
great.
terrifying. I hope they're using the infield, because if they're not, a lot of the people in the front row are not going to make it home, I feel like. But I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good time.
Rob, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to give you one last IndyCar thought here. And it's kind of an F1 thought, which is sometimes I think that nobody has ever had their reputation rehabilitated by being briefly almost set alight than Roman Grosjean.
Right.
Because the amount of evidence that's accumulating in IndyCar that guy is an asshole.
Oh, really?
Like, you know,
The Phoenix?
there are always implications that like he was not well loved among a lot of the other F1 drivers, and that has continued into IndyCar. He is routinely like getting into argy-bargy, like banging wheels. He ran somebody off the road during Barber Weekend during practice, just because he just wanted a clear run. The word on why he got let go by Andretti was not necessarily race performance, but he kept throwing mechanics under the bus during interviews after races. So like my last thought here is, you know, we all love the Phoenix and we're all excited to be like, yeah, like IndyCar. It's great to see him with a new lease on life.
Yeah.
No, our real champion, it turns out to be Marcus Ericsson. That's the guy who made the jump and like completely assimilated and be like, hey, Marcus, what's up? And Grosjean, I want to say Will Power once said that guy's a piece of crap.
Wow.
Following a practice session interaction.
I feel like Ericsson, in our hearts, was probably like we all knew he was a better driver and might do better. Grosjean to me was more like when the sort of the farm dog has to go, you know, go live in the field. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it was more of like a, hey, I hope he does really well out there. I really like that guy. He can't do the job anymore, but you know, all the best to him. It turns out
And he has form, but it does seem like in F1 and here he is prone to horrible lapses of judgment and just getting like too hot under the collar and taking on other people. And yeah, it's just kind of, it is funny seeing this all unfold because it's like, oh yeah, it's now happening again in IndyCar. Like we're ending up in the exact same place. F1 ended up with that guy.
as long as Danny Kvyat stays away from me, he should be all right. Sorry, I'm not blaming Danny Kvyat.
No,
for
wait,
that.
wasn't it? I think Magnussen hit us. Isn't that what when he was in Baku and he crashed under the safety car?
Oh my God, is that what he said? That's
Yeah.
so embarrassing. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, all right. Thanks everyone. This has been a big one, but we made it. We made it through. If you would like to support the show and get access to all of our bonus episodes, the ad-free version of the podcast, and the official Shift F1 Discord, you can do so over at patreon.com/ShiftF1. Have a good race weekend, everyone. We will see you all next week.